Have you ever been walking through a park, standing at the edge of a forest, or looking out into your backyard when a deer suddenly stopped, stared straight at you, and slammed one hoof against the ground? It is a moment that feels strangely personal, almost like the deer is trying to tell you something. The question is, what exactly is it saying? Most people assume a deer is simply frightened when it stomps its foot. And while fear is part of the story, the truth is far more interesting. That sharp stomp is not just a nervous reaction, it is his message. In fact, it is one of the clearest ways a deer communicates with the world around it. Imagine a quiet morning. The grass is wet with dew and a deer is feeding near the edge of a tree line. Everything seems calm. Then it notices something unusual. Maybe it catches movement. Maybe it smells a scent it does not recognize. Maybe it hears a sound that does not belong. The deer freezes, its ears swivel forward, its eyes lock onto the source of uncertainty. And then comes the stomp. That single strike of the hoof against the earth carries meaning. Researchers who study deer behavior have observed this response in many species, especially white-tailed deer. The stomp acts as an alarm signal. It tells nearby deer that something suspicious may be present. Notice the wording there. Suspicious, not necessarily dangerous. A deer does not always know whether a threat is real. Sometimes it simply knows that something is different. The stomp is its way of saying that it has noticed something, and everyone should pay attention. If you have ever stood perfectly still while a deer watched you from a distance, you may have seen this firsthand. The deer might stomp once and wait, then it might stomp again. It is gathering information, watching to see what happens next. In a way, the deer is asking a question. Who are you? What are you doing here? Should I be worried? That uncertainty is important because deer survive by detecting danger before danger reaches them. They live in a world filled with predators. For thousands of years, their ancestors survived by paying attention to the smallest clues: a strange scent on the breeze, a branch breaking in the distance, an unfamiliar shape standing where no shape should be. The animals that ignored those clues did not leave many descendants. The animals that investigated survived. So modern deer inherited an extraordinary sensitivity to their surroundings. Their foot stomp is one small piece of that survival system. But the stomp does more than warn other deer. It can also serve as a signal directed toward the potential threat itself. Think about what happens when a deer stomps while looking directly at you. It is almost as though it is announcing that it knows you are there. And that is exactly what may be happening. Predators often rely on surprise. A hidden hunter has an advantage, but once the prey knows the predator has been detected, that advantage begins to disappear. By stomping, the deer may essentially be saying something like this: I see you. You are not hidden anymore. If a predator hears or sees that signal, it may realize that the opportunity for a successful attack is slipping away. Picture a coyote moving through tall grass. The deer spots the movement before the coyote gets close. A loud stomp rings out across the field. The coyote now knows it has been detected. The deer knows it. Other deer may know it too. The situation has changed. What is fascinating is that deer often combine stomping with several other behaviors. Their tails may flick. Their ears may remain pointed toward the disturbance. They may snort loudly through their noses. Sometimes they will move a short distance away but continue watching. This combination creates a surprisingly sophisticated communication system. The stomp grabs attention. The stare gathers information. The snort raises the alarm further. Together, they create a message that can travel through a group of deer almost instantly. If you have ever watched a herd in an open field, you may notice how quickly awareness spreads. One deer becomes alert, then another, then another. Within moments, an entire group can shift from relaxed feeding to heightened vigilance. No words are spoken, yet information moves through the herd all the same. There is something remarkable about that. We often think of communication as something uniquely human. We imagine language as sentences and conversations. But nature is filled with messages that do not require words. A stomping deer is participating in a conversation as old as the forests themselves. And there is another layer to this behavior that many people never consider. Sometimes the deer is not only reacting to danger. It is also measuring your reaction. Animals constantly learn from experience. If a deer stomps and the strange figure suddenly moves toward it, that tells the deer one thing. If the figure remains still and harmless, that tells it something else. Over time, deer become surprisingly skilled at reading situations. This is why deer living near neighborhoods often behave differently from deer deep in remote wilderness. A suburban deer may encounter people every day. It learns which behaviors signal danger and which do not. Even then, however, the foot stomp remains part of its toolkit. The message stays useful. Be alert, pay attention. Something unusual is here. The more you watch wildlife, the more you begin to notice that many behaviors work this way. What looks simple on the surface often contains layers of meaning underneath. A bird call, a squirrel tail flick, a rabbit freezing in place. Each behavior tells a story about survival, awareness, and life in a world where every decision matters. The deer's foot stomp is one of those stories, and perhaps that is why the moment feels so memorable when it happens to us. For a brief second, two different worlds notice each other. You become aware of the deer becomes aware of you. There is a silent exchange, not friendship, not hostility, just recognition. If you enjoy discovering these hidden stories in the natural world, consider subscribing to Global Wild Origins. We explore the small moments most people overlook and uncover the remarkable lives unfolding all around us. The next time a deer stomps its foot in your direction, try seeing the moment differently. Instead of viewing it as a simple act of fear, think of it as a message carried across thousands of generations. A signal shaped by survival, sharpened by instinct, and delivered with surprising clarity. The deer is not merely reacting, it is communicating. It is announcing that something has changed in its environment. It is warning others. It is testing the situation. It is revealing a glimpse of the invisible language that wildlife uses every day. And perhaps the most beautiful part is that once you understand that message, the forest never feels quite the same again. That deer standing still among the trees is no longer just an animal looking back at you. It is a watchful observer, reading the world with senses refined by countless generations. Its stomp is not random noise. It is information. It is awareness made visible. So if you ever find yourself standing quietly while a deer fixes its gaze on you and strikes the ground with its hoof, remember that moment. Remember that you have just witnessed a conversation older than human history, and for a brief instant, you were part of it.